What's up, YouTube? SWUCUBE here. Today I have something a little bit different for you. In the couple weeks between when spoilers ended for Set 2 of Star Wars Unlimited and the actual pre-release and release, when I got cards and was able to finish brewing the decks that I've been working on through spoiler season and actually put my cube together and start playing again, I had some time on my hands and I was itchy to brew. I was itchy to design. I was itchy to create. And so I branched out to another card game and built another cube. And today, I'm going to give you a little view into that process and into that cube. So without further ado, the Pokemon Cube. Now, Pokemon as a game is a lot older than Star Wars Unlimited. It's been around since 1999 here in the States. And before that, in Japan. It is the second oldest trading card game behind Magic the Gathering. I owned Pokemon cards as a kid, had no idea how to play the game, like most other kids. But I definitely spent a lot of time with Pokemon through the video games. I watched the show when I was young. I grew up with Pokemon in a lot of ways, but never really took the game itself seriously. Of course, I saw it at local game stores when I would go and play other games that I was into throughout the years. But I never really gave Pokemon much of a second thought or second look. Until recently, actually, I was at a local game store when I was traveling on business in a different state, or a different part of the state that I live in, and was playing Star Wars Unlimited at the store showdown. Placed fourth, by the way. Got, I guess, 2 maces and 4 of the takedowns. It was a lot of fun. And I played a total budget, like, off-the-wall deck in the process. Anyway, beside the point. One of my opponents, I saw in his bag, had a ton of Pokemon decks. And so I just started drawing him out and asking him about the game and learned. And this guy was a serious Star Wars Unlimited player, grown adult man. But he represented Pokemon very well to me. That it was a challenging, interesting game, cheap to play and pick up, huge community, etc. And so that kind of filtered in my back burner for a few weeks until I had some, free card game time on my hand without much card game things to do, and I started looking. And I will tell you that I quickly realized that it does indeed have a thriving competitive scene. It's a very interesting game. There's 25 years worth of sets to look through and understand. I mean, it was kind of a rabbit hole that I'm sort of still climbing out of. But in the process, I discovered that there's a Pokemon Cube community. Which is very cool. They have a Discord, there's a podcast. It's small, a very small community relative to the size of the franchise, but very tight and interesting, and I think welcoming community. So I started poking around. I joined the Discord. I started asking questions, started designing a cube myself, and here we are. This is a 2-player cube designed for one-on-one quick casual games. It's kind of meant to be a nice little palate cleanse between Star Wars Unlimited sessions or something to do on the side. And I really, really enjoyed the process of designing this cube. I enjoy the gameplay that it offers. And I feel like in a lot of ways, I'm just getting started with this cube because I'm a major novice to the game of Pokemon and have a lot to learn, have a lot of the card pool to understand, but certainly intend on improving this cube as much as I can and refining it as much as I can. I'm not going to talk too much more about the game itself. I would imagine that many of you watching probably are already very, very familiar with this game and may already even be familiar with Pokemon Cube. But I'm going to take some time now and talk about my cube in particular. So my cube is a 120 card Solomon stack. Now, Solomon refers to a draft format that is, as far as I can tell, unique to the Pokemon card game and designed for 2-player play. So the way Solomon draft works, just before I get into the cards themselves, I'll just kind of show you how this works so you can have a framework here. The way Solomon draft works is that players take turns dealing 8 cards off the top of the cube. Those are upside down. That's going to be annoying. I apologize. And then the player who deals separates those cards into 2 piles. I'm going to arbitrarily do that. And then the other player picks one of those piles and takes it. And then the dealing player takes the pile that's left. and that flip-flops back and forth until you've drafted the entire cube. It goes in 8-card lots, so there are 15 rounds, and the entire 120 card cube is drafted. And then I have kind of designed the cube to support 50 card decks with 5 prize cards each. And if you're not familiar with the rules of Pokemon, I'm not going to explain them because that will just take too long, and I'll probably mess it up because I'm pretty new to them as well. But there's a large supply of basic energy cards, which are kind of like lands or the resources of the Pokemon game, which are available outside the draft. And then you take the 60 cards and the energy, and you build a 50-card deck, and you play best of 1, best of 3, whatever you want to play. The draft is quick. It's very engaging. It's super different than a booster draft. There's a lot of thought and skill that goes into separating the piles and selecting tons of interplay between your opponent. The draft itself is really a major part of the fun of this cube. Now, cube contents. Pokemon as a game is not one that lends itself well to limited play for a couple reasons. Number one, there's like 9 different colors of Pokemon. In Star Wars Unlimited, we're used to 4 colors that have dark and light sides. So, I mean, really, 6 colors, or like 2 halves, 8, 6, 8, 10, depending on how you, but really there's 4 colors in Star Wars Unlimited. In Pokemon, there's, grass, fire, water, electric, fighting, psychic, dark, fairy, steel, dragon. All of these different colors of Pokemon, it can make the limited environment can just be a little bit convoluted. And generally speaking, you want to build decks that have 1, 2, 3 types of energy in them, and the energy is what powers the Pokemon's move, and the energy is kind of the deck building restraint. So you can't have 9 different Pokemon that require 9 different types of energy in a deck and expect to have a coherent deck. So that's like the limiter. So that, number one, makes it very difficult to just take a random pool of Pokemon cards and build a cube environment that represents the entire game and have it work. And people do it, and I think as a game, Pokemon cubes can be designed very well, representing all colors, for 6 to 8 players, and like a sit-down booster draft kind of thing. But that's not what I have going on here. It's a Solomon draft for only 2 players. So I have restricted my card pool to only 3 colors: grass, water, fire. And I'll explain why in a couple minutes. But there's another rule change that you kind of have to make, or you don't have to, but I have made in my cube, and that is a loosening of the evolution rules. So in a normal game of standard rule Pokemon, Charmander evolves into Charmeleon, evolves into Charizard, right? These cards progress, they level up, they get more powerful, but Charizard is useless unless you evolve it from a Charmeleon, which evolves from a Charmander. So the Charizard's kind of like the third piece of a 3-card combo, and it's really powerful and strong, but you have to have 2 other very unique specific cards to get that third powerful card to work. In card game terms, that's very parasitic. It's very difficult to make something that's that specific work in the randomness of a limited environment. So what many people, I did not come up with this, many cubers have done is created a rule set called Mutant Evolution, where Pokemon of just a specific color, any basic Pokemon, level 1 Pokemon of a color, can evolve into the second stage, or actually it's called stage 1. So basic to stage 1 to stage 2. So in my cube, a basic Pokemon like Chimchar could evolve into a stage 1 Pokemon like Ninetales, even though Ninetales says evolves from Vulpix right up here. I'm ignoring that because this is a next stage fire. It can evolve on top of the Chimchar. And then my Blaziken, shiny foily, Pokemon has really pretty foils. Anyway, stage 2 can evolve on top of that Ninetales. That's Mutant Evolution. It makes the draft process much more flexible. It creates a lot more varied gameplay in a certain sense. And there's pros and cons of like doing traditional evolution or mutant evolution within a cube environment, but for the 2-player environment I've created, I chose to go this route. So I run a restricted card color pool focusing on 3 colors, one of which is fire, the other of which is grass, classic, Ivysaur. And we also have, let me see if I can find one real quick, water Pokemon, Tentacruel, another classic. right? So these are the three main colors. The reason that I chose these three colors is that you can see, if it's not blurry here, fire has a weakness to water. It takes double damage from water Pokemon. Grass Pokemon are weak to fire, take double damage from fire Pokemon. And water Pokemon, from this era of the game, it kind of changes from time to time, but from this era of the game, water Pokemon are weak to grass. So, fire, weak to grass, or weak to water, which is weak to grass, which is weak to fire, which is weak to water, which is weak to grass, right? You see, it creates this weakness triangle where every creature kind of always has a creature, or a type of creature that's good against, Pokemon that it's good against. Excuse me, gotta get my terms right. My gosh, so many card games. Every Pokemon is strong against a specific set of Pokemon and also weak against a specific set of Pokemon. In a tight little card pool environment like this, it creates a really nice self-balancing mechanic. Now, the power level of cards that you can see, you know, the numbers on this card are much smaller than the numbers on this card, which are a good bit smaller than the numbers on this card, right? As you evolve Pokemon, they get stronger. And so, yeah, I wanted to create an environment where it wasn't just a race to whoever could get the most powerful Pokemon first wins, that there's a little bit more back and forth and give and take. And so this weakness triangle really helps keep things in check. You know, every Pokemon has a counter. The gameplay is designed to be pretty dynamic and back and forth. And I think, at least as a starting proof of concept, I have accomplished that. It's a lot of fun to play. Now, in addition to the bulk of the Pokemon in the cube, which are these three colors, I also include some other classic Pokemon from other colors that you'll recognize. Hitmonchan, a fighting Pokemon, of course. Pikachu. There's a couple psychic Pokemon in here as well. I don't have those ready, but also colorless Pokemon, which can serve support utility roles, as well as colorless Pokemon that are just kind of strong, like Beatstick, aggro Pokemon. All that designed to kind of make multiple types of decks possible, right? You're going to draft about 30 Pokemon. There are 60 in the cube. If each player gets half, they each get about 30. In a 50-card deck, you're probably not going to want to put more than 20 Pokemon in that deck. So you're going to use about 2/3 of the Pokemon. I mean, there's a third of the Pokemon that you won't be using. And so what I try to do is represent multiple different types of strategies that you could do, and that's something that I'm gonna have to get better at because I don't know how good I've done yet, but that's the goal, right? I want to have varied strategies, varied deck construction, varied gameplay, all kind of in a tight little package. Now, in addition to the Pokemon, there's also about 30 supporter cards. Supporter cards in Pokemon are typically like consistency effects, like draw or search effects, tutors, draw cards. You draw a ton of cards, in Pokemon. It's a lot of fun. Also, kind of hand disruption cards, like basic card draw and card discard type effects are supporters. You can play one of those a turn. There's also a fair amount of items. Items are one-use cards, but you can play multiple of them in turn. And classic, like escape rope, energy search, ordinary rod. Classic cards. You'll recognize the names of those from the video game. And then I also include a handful of special energy cards. This is kind of like ramp, right? You get an extra resource out of this double colorless energy. There's a few of those in this cube. All of it together creates a tight little microcosm of gameplay. I have not played with this too much yet, but the games that I have played, the game singular, one time, was a lot of fun. And to me, was a successful proof of concept that a 2-player Pokemon cube using mutant draft rules and a restricted color pie works. I very much look forward to refining this and tinkering with it over time. But I'm not going to post a billion videos on this, right? If you are interested in learning more, please let me know in the comments. I will link to my cube list. There is a Pokemon Cube website called cubekoga.net. It's great. I will link this list, but the list on Cube Koga probably isn't even current with the stack of cards I have here. I haven't been updating it in real time because I'm still very much in the tinkering process. And I'm kind of letting things be free flowing right now while I work it out. But by all means, go check out the list. If you want me to do like a card by card, color by color kind of like deck tech type thing, I'm more than happy to do that. But I know that I'm a Star Wars Unlimited channel. I'm not going to muddy the water too much. But this is such a cool idea. I just kind of wanted to get this out to the world and talk about what I've been working on kind of in the off season here. And I will be back next video with more deck techs. So thank you for tuning in. Please like, subscribe, and I'll talk to you later. Peace out.